The administrative area allows you to set up preferences globally, including a master password, default data fields, and default messages for statements, receipts, and recall cards. You can also add your company logo for printing on recall cards. Set up security clearance by user, and set up your scheduler preferences and electronic file transmission settings if you signed up for that option. To access administrative settings, click on General Settings in the task pane to the left of the main screen. Click on Administration in the task pane to the left of the screen. You can set up a master password in this area. This is set up to restrict access to this area because this is the area where you're going to set up user clearances and some information that probably should only be done by the administrator or manager. So set up your master password here. If you click on required sign in, that will require you to actually sign in on the station as you come in, and it also activates the security clearance. So if you click on require sign in, everybody that comes onto the computer or their station will have to sign in using their username and password. And we'll get to that in the section coming soon. Automatically create account numbers. We check that off for you. That's the common thing that people like to do. This is when you insert your patient demographics. It'll automatically set an incremental account number for you. You can also create your own account number. Skip the print preview. In almost all of the areas where you print in Perfect Byte, it comes up with a print preview, and it's a nice option, but in some areas you may not like it or you may not want it to come up at all. This is where you would click to bypass that print preview. So that's the general area of the administrative preferences. Now let's go into defaults. This is an area that you would want to complete to set up. This pulls from the master list, but it's for when you put in brand new patients, and it's going to pre-fill all of this information for you that you can modify, obviously, but this is the most common data that you would want. So your most common fee schedule, or you can leave it blank. If you mostly see females or males, generally that's not a case in orthodontic and general dentistry, but you can set that here. Zip codes, you might want to choose your area zip code, city and state to automatically pre-fill in your patient information. Your default status, usually when people are coming in, they're active or they're new, so you can set that up here. Default place of treatment, default doctor. If you have a group practice, you can choose the most common doctor here, or you can even leave this blank so that you can select every time. Your default hygienist, which will be accessible to our dental practices and people who purchase the Enterprise Edition, and default assistant that will be accessible to the orthodontic practices or people that purchase the Enterprise Edition. The default form, these are the formats that we currently accept or support in Perfect Byte. The ADA 2004, 2000, the HCFA 1500, and the Denti-Cal Public Aid form all will print from Perfect Byte. The ADA 2004 and 2000 are pre-printed forms, so you don't have to purchase forms. It will automatically print the complete form. The Denti-Cal forms, the state of California requires that you purchase the laser forms, and therefore Perfect Byte will complete that laser form and will not print the form. So those are your options there, and you want to choose your most common one. This will pull across to your visit, so you won't have to change that or complete that field every time. The tooth system, ADA or ANSI. ANSI would be selected if you're sending electronic claims, and it would change the way that the tooth is represented going electronically. Default signature on file and default release of information indicator. We have those on yes, but you can set those as the default here. If you regularly have HIPAA statements signed as part of your regular routine, you probably want to check that off as well. If you don't and just want to do them individually, you're more than welcome to do that. When it comes to HIPAA, we don't like to default anything, but we give you the option here as far as signing forms, that is. Show inflated fees on ADA form. This is an interesting option that we've given you here. Basically, show inflated fees allows you to select this option if you wish to submit the expected fee, which is generally inflated, to the insurance company and still only report the approved fee on the visit and on the patient account. This was requested by physicians, dentists, and orthodontists who want to make sure that their fee schedules and contracts with the insurance companies are assessed at the reasonable and customary fee. So they send more than what their approved amount is. They send what the expected amount is. They might send $100 instead of $75, because when the insurance companies start figuring out what your fee schedule should be, they're going to use that amount. But they only wanted this amount to reflect on what they send to the ADA and not necessarily on the patient account. So we added that option. Default messages. These are different messages that can print, or text that can print on the different printouts that you do for patients. We've got samples in here, but you can clear them out or change them. This is the recall message. This will print on the recall cards. The walkout receipt. This is the receipt that you give to the patient when they're leaving. This message will print at the bottom. The credit card acceptance message will print on the statements. So if you don't accept American Express or you don't accept any credit cards, just highlight it and delete it. However you want to, whatever payment method, or you can leave it blank, either way. On the walkout receipt, you cannot have it print the next payment due on the walkout receipt by selecting the option there. Your treatment plan method, you can create treatment plans in PerfectBite, and this is just a generic message that will print on the bottom of every one of those, so you can customize that here or leave it blank. School excuse messages, same thing. You've got a 1,000-character limit. You can put a message in here for the bottom of the school excuse or leave it blank, and the same thing with the appointment card messages. Your company information consists of your logo. This logo is going to print on your recall cards. What you want to do is just go ahead and browse your computer for the JPEG. So you click on browse, look around, find your JPEG, and then it'll attach it there. And then you can use this logo width and height to change the size of your logo. And it shows your preview here. And that'll print on your recall cards. User information. This is where you're going to set up the security clearances for your different users. I've got a couple in here, so I'm going to go into one of them and show you all the different areas that you can restrict. Now, if you want somebody to have full access, we give you a simple method to do that. Just click up that top mark and it'll give them access to everything. And then you can uncheck it and just uncheck a few things. Or you can go in and only give them access to a few things. Maybe this is a person who just does scheduling. You don't want them in the financials. Maybe you want somebody to be in the financials, but you don't want them to be able to delete any patients. You don't want them to delete any charges. So I'm going to say I don't want this person to be able to delete anything. They can do all the data entry they want, but they cannot delete anything. So that's what I'm setting here. And so now, because I have sign-in authorizations checked off under General, these people, all that sign in with that username and password, will have the security clearance as set under users. So let's go back in there one more time so you can just see what that's all about. So in here also you can access the user information about what their password is, if you want to go ahead and set their password, and their login names. And that login name is automatically pre-filled from the computer name that they log in on. First name, last name. Default tab to select when inserting a visit. When you go into PerfectBite and insert a visit, there are 3 tabs. There's the doctor tab for billing purposes. There's the responsibility tab for the primary and secondary responsible parties, and there's the charges tab. Most people like to default to tab number 3 for the charges because that's right where they want to go. All the rest of the information, or almost all the information, is completed from pulling directly from the patient demographic information and the doctor information. So most of the time you don't need to access tab 1 and 2 unless it's a special circumstance, and you'll want to go right to the visit. But you'll see an example of that as we go. But that's what that field is for right there. You can also set up printers, where you want the invoices, the labels, reports, and forms to go for a particular user. So everybody and at every different station, each different user can have their own printer settings. Or you can leave these blank, and what it'll do is it'll pull up the Windows printer dialog box and allow you to choose a printer every time. You can default this to print a patient label when you insert them. Some people like those to print out automatically. You can check that off and assign the number of labels you'd like to print. And also be prompted to print a welcome package upon inserting a new patient. So that's another quick shortcut. We already went into clearance. Preferences. Now on the front screen and everywhere that you see the task pane, you'll notice that you can expand and contract these menu items. We allow you the option on the main screen to default these for different stations to open, expand, and contract these menus. And it's just to kind of customize it for each user so that when you go to the main screen, the things that you do most commonly are expanded. So you can check those off here as desired. And of course, you can come back in here, or the administrator can, whoever has the master password, to change all of this. We also give you an option to default to the description tab of the list. Now, as you saw when we went through master list, you create codes, and that links the data. So my code for Blue Cross Blue Shield is BCBS, but the title is Blue Cross Blue Shield. You can set it to default to the description tab if you don't want to look it up by code. In general, people have it looking up by code because most of the time the code is referencing, or it makes sense. You understand what that code means, but you can also set it to the description tab as well. And that'll default all the lists to the description tabs if you set it here. Autocomplete. You've probably seen this option in other programs as well, and on the internet. When you type, it tries to determine if you've typed that before, and it tries to automatically complete the sentence. And you'll see this happening as we move forward. If you hate that option, if you don't like it, you can uncheck it here. We're going to leave it, you can check it here. We're going to leave it unchecked so you can see that in action throughout the program. But if you don't like it, like I said, you can come in here and check that off, and it'll bypass that feature. Our program currently interfaces with Dolphin and VistaDent, Dolphin Imaging and VistaDent. And this is where you'd put all the settings for that. We're not going to walk through this section because it's specific if you've purchased that imaging interface. That's basically what you can do in the user area. And it's primarily for the clearance, but setting up the printers is nice. The users can actually do that themselves using my settings, which we'll go over in another section. But that's basically the user section. Scheduler. You can set up your scheduler duration in here and your start and end times for the entire week. We take you all the way through Sunday. Some offices are open on the weekend. You can fill just the first one out and then set all of them to the same time. That's a great time saver. Or do that and then modify them as necessary. You can leave them blank if you're not open that day. You can use color blocking for openings. You can, if you want, check that off. If you decide you want to do that later, you can set that up in the scheduler as well. Appointment descriptions can be set up in here with default durations. This helps when you're doing your scheduling. If you have a particular type of service that takes a certain length of time, when you make that appointment, it will set it up for that duration, and you can apply colors to this. So all you need to do is click insert, put in your description. See, there's the autofill option. Let's do that again so you can see that. All I did was type, let me go over there. Don't save it. Insert. Okay. I just typed in an N, and it basically guessed, based on what I already had in the appointment list, that it's a new patient, and it pre-filled that. So it saved me all that typing. My appointment duration is set to 30 minutes. Maybe for a new patient, I want to have it 45 minutes. I can select a color for that and OK it. And that just sets it up. It's a nice graphical view to have colors on your schedule, and you'll see that in the scheduled training section. And it added it to my list. When you're done with this list, just click on close. And you can also access that list from the scheduler, but if you're in here and want to set that up in advance, you can do that. Electronic settings are also done in here. And we're not going to go over this section because it is specific. If you sign up for electronic transmission, we will walk you through this individually because it is very individual. You'll receive certain numbers and settings and paths all from the electronic company, and we'll fill this area out accordingly. So click OK to exit that area.